So let's get started. So there's the first, mountain lions. Everybody loves mountain lions, right? We've worked very, very closely with the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, that is the National Park Service, to work on mountain lion conservation. We've done that in a number of different ways, a number of different projects. The one I'm most proud of is the first La Kretz postdoc who we ever funded, John Benson. He's now a full professor at the University of Nebraska. And John worked with the National Park Service to say, how are the lions in the Santa Monica Mountains doing? And the answer was lousy. They're a small population, they're inbred, they're starting to show signs of inbreeding. And John built a model that said, a mathematical model that said, if we don't do something to connect the Santa Monica Mountains to the outside world for lions, they're going to be gone by 2050. And what that led to is the Annenberg Wildlife Crossing, which if you drive along the 101, you'll see it now at Liberty Canyon, the largest wildlife crossing in the world. And it was John's work as a La Kretz postdoc that really provided the initial science for that project, something I'm immensely proud of, as is John and Seth Riley and the rest of the team. Another mammal, another, it's sort of the other end of the ecological spectrum, I suppose, Stevens kangaroo rat, an endangered little great rodent. And Janine Fisher is a PhD student here at UCLA in the La Kretz Center. We've been funding Janine's work to look at the competition between this little endangered kangaroo rat and a more aggressive, competitively superior kangaroo rat that messes with it in its dryland desert habitat. And Janine's trying to figure out how we might be able to sort of modify the habitat to make it so the competition leans in favor of the endangered one and not so much for the common one that seems to be sort of bossing it around and pushing it out of available habitat. To really do this, the Channel Island foxes, a success story in many ways, but a bizarre story in many ways. Channel Island foxes have the lowest levels of genetic variation ever documented in nature, on at least some islands. And it's the question is, why in the world, excuse me, extinct from that? And Stella Yuan is a PhD student who we're funding. And what Stella's looking at are some really interesting, really techie molecular approaches, looking at things like DNA methylation, to say, are there unknown and sort of unrecognized genetic mechanisms in nature that allow populations to persist even when they're inbred, that sort of allow them to modify their DNA? Very edgy, very, very sort of fascinating work that the island fox is benefiting from. Moving over to birds. This is a tricolored blackbird, a species which is almost restricted to California. There's very few birds that are just in California. Tricolors do get out of the state, but only a little bit. Species that's been in decline for many years. Kelly Barr, when he was a PhD student here, funded under the La Kretz Center, studied the genetics of populations of tricolors across the state. They occur in the Central Valley, they occur in Southern California. Always thought those were two very distinct populations that need to be managed separately. What Kelly showed is that somehow, ways we don't quite understand, those birds are moving back and forth between those two areas, and the overall population is bigger than we thought and genetically somewhat healthier than we thought. So kind of a win from learning that about the birds.